Alright, you amazing people, it is Nima here, and today we're going to talk about a game called Folk Hero. But we're not only going to talk about it, we're also going to give a few copies away. That's right, and I can't thank the publishers enough for sending me a copy of the game, but also giving me 3 free codes to give away to you guys, and just stay towards the end of the video and I'll tell you how you can claim them. And trust me, you're gonna want to claim them, because at its surface, this game does seem a bit traditional. It is essentially a roguelike dungeon crawler with some Souls-like elements to it, and honestly, if that was it, that was all this game had to offer, I would still probably say, as long as it was done right, that's a good game. I like that game. But there's definitely more to the game than just that. So let's sit down and talk about Folk Hero. But before we do that, please hit that like and subscribe button, help my channel grow so I can continue reviewing a lot of games and trying to give you guys my honest opinions. Maybe that'll save you money, maybe it won't, maybe I can hook you guys up with a code here and there. I like to keep everything fun on the channel, love to give away gift cards, and so all of that can only grow if you guys help the channel grow, and so yeah, subscribe, like, share, do all that fun stuff. Anyway, let's get into Folk Hero. So anyway, this is a game that I would say I wasn't super excited to review. It looked cool, don't get me wrong. But the two places that I was really skeptical was controls and just the visual in general. Sometimes if the visuals aren't as good, it can kind of be hard to get into the game and really hard to identify with the characters. And especially in a roguelike, that seems to happen more and more because the stories tend to be given to you in just like bite-sized little pieces, and you gotta go further and further before you can digest that and understand what's actually going on in the game, and this is no different. But I will say, when that story finally hits you, it is incredibly interesting and does keep you engaged. I'm not gonna ruin too much of this story for you guys, but essentially this world had magic and had some very powerful water that had magic in it, which was also sort of a barrier of sorts. Anyway, this magic was stolen by a very powerful wizard, Zar Kochi, I believe is his name. If I didn't get the name right, I apologize. But anyway, he had stolen this magic for himself, and now this mysterious island appeared where all the animals had gone crazy, and if any human died there, they were unable to leave. You're just stuck there over and over in this like death loop of sorts. And so you basically come around to the point that you've got to go face him and take him down so you'll release that magic and hopefully heal this island. Now, there is so much more to it than just that, and one of the great things that I really enjoyed about the story was learning about other aspects of it through just small little side quests. As you're running through the procedurally generated areas, you will find different side quests that kind of pop up, and most of them don't take you that far out of your way anyway, which I really like, especially in a roguelike style game like this, where most of the time you're kind of concentrated on these like short little playthroughs, maybe you got 20-30 minutes here or there that you're going to play, and so a side quest can sometimes get lost, or something that you just forget about, or even just be like a big hassle that you don't want to deal with. But in this game, they are very bite-sized, and not only does it help you interact with the environment a little bit more, get to know some of the characters, but it also teaches you about what's going on in this world. And so that was one aspect of the game that I really enjoyed. And even though, yeah, I would argue the graphics are a little rough around the edges, it never really impacted my ability to connect or immerse myself in this game. So for me, that was just a huge sticking point, and I was really happy to see it have such an interactive story that kept you engaged. Now, the other problem, like I said, or my other concern, was controls. And luckily, the controls are great. Now, I will say moving the character can sometimes feel like you're on ice skates a little bit, and I would like to see that honed in just a little bit, but I also think that it's just due to the speed of the character and how you're playing the game, because sometimes you don't want to just run straight at a bad guy. Like, it's not a good thing. And the controls outside of that are incredibly responsive. And so, like I said, it's something that I think just needs to be tinkered around with a little bit, and ultimately I would just appreciate the ability to be able to set the sensitivity on the analog sticks. I think that would make a huge difference in the controls, or maybe even a lock-on button might also work. Part of the thing with this game is that it's not just like a standard roguelike. In many ways, it does have the Souls-like elements to it, meaning you're doing a lot of dodging and parrying and facing one-on-one combatants. And so with a lock-on mechanism, that would help too, or just kind of the ability, I guess, like I said, to just control your character just a little bit better. Again, I don't really think this takes that much away from the game. In fact, it's the only little thing that I've picked on the game that I think is an issue, and it really is minor. It doesn't really affect combat that much, and that is the whole aspect of the gameplay, which is essentially combat. And I absolutely love the combat in this game. As we said, it's sort of a hack and Souls-like-ish game where, yeah, you have some abilities, you have some items, and you're able to kind of use all those with the respect of a stamina bar, which is like the Souls-like aspect. But that's not only it. You see, you also have different builds. There's different artifacts you can find that can add tons of different elements or debuffs or buffs to your build. For instance, you can find one that causes bleeding or shock damage or fire. One of my favorite things to do is to put fire on my bow and arrow, because whenever you're fighting a boss, it's always nice to be able to inflict them with something that'll continually take down their health and yet give you that ability to really reach out and touch someone. You don't always want to be, especially with bosses, toe-to-toe with them with a melee weapon. And that's also the cool thing about the game, though, is you do start off with a recruit. That's the class that you first start off with, but there's many classes to unlock, and each one of those has its own fighting style as well. So as you're going through and unlocking different builds and trying different builds and seeing which one works better, they're gonna work differently for each class. So as you unlock the game further, unlock different classes, you're able to mix match builds and artifacts and things of that nature, as well as permanently upgrade your character, which I'll get to in a second. You're going to be able to find a class that works best for you and a build that works really well with that class. Now, like I was saying before, you do actually have the ability to keep one of the currencies that you get while you're on your runs. There's a few currencies you collect and a few items. The two big ones, though, are basically gold, which you can use while you're on your run. In fact, it's encouraged. You can't take it with you. You can use it to buy different potions or items or things like that. There's always shops that pop up, and I definitely recommend buying it if you can, because you're not, like I said, going to be able to keep it, so why not? And it might give you that little bit of an edge that you need. Now, the other thing, though, is this sort of experience, if you will. That's all what I'm going to call it, because I don't know the exact name. But anyway, when you die, you're taken back to the shore where you'll see the trainer. You'll still have that XP, and you can exchange that for permanent upgrades, like damage, or vitality, or your crit, and of course, it goes on from there. As you unlock more and more of the character, and you make the base character stronger, you'll have more options that come available to you. Also, just to note, there are many items that you will get for doing side quests and helping NPCs out that will later be able to be exchanged for certain upgrades or just like a buff or something like that. There's many of those things. One thing I can think of off the top of my head is amber. The more amber you get, you can talk to this tree, this little Leslie, and he'll hook you up with stuff when you exchange it for that amber. And finally, I think most people are concerned about the performance. Hey, Nima, does it play well? Yes, it definitely does. The performance in this game is great. I never had any sort of issues. No lags, no bog downs, definitely no crashes, nothing like that. And so ultimately, I would definitely advise picking this game up. It is only $11.99, which is a great price for it. But like I said, for you wonderful listeners, you have an opportunity to actually snag yourself a code. And all you have to do is like, share, sub, and comment down below. Nima sounds awful. Trust me, I will not be offended. I know how my voice sounds. And in fact, it's about dead. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video. But like I said, comment down below, say Nima sounds awful. You will be entered into the drawing for one of 3 codes for Folk Hero. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Love y'all. Bye-bye.